De Beers did not just sell diamonds. It helped make diamonds feel rare, romantic, and almost necessary. Not just expensive stones, but the visible proof of seriousness, permanence, and love. And that is the real mechanism. This is not only a story about jewelry. It is a story about how scarcity can become more powerful when it stops feeling commercial and starts feeling emotional. That is why diamonds became so strong. Most people look at a diamond ring and see something natural, a tradition, a symbol that was always supposed to matter, something that simply belongs inside proposals, commitment, and marriage. But that feeling did not create itself, and that is where De Beers changed the game. Because selling luxury is always easier when the product means more than the object itself. A normal product has to compete on price, features, or quality. It has to persuade the buyer logically. But once a product becomes attached to identity, ritual, and emotion, it stops competing in the normal way. It starts feeling protected. That is what made diamonds different. De Beers did not just benefit from scarcity, it benefited from attaching scarcity to meaning. Once the diamond became associated with permanence, devotion, and public proof, the purchase changed. It no longer felt like buying a stone. It felt like fulfilling a role, and that is much stronger. Because people do not defend meaning the way they defend money. When something feels symbolic, resistance weakens. The buyer stops asking only whether the object is worth the cost. The buyer starts asking what it means if the object is missing. That is the shift that matters. A product can be limited and still feel optional. A product can be expensive and still feel replaceable. Scarcity alone does not guarantee power. The real leverage appears when scarcity is wrapped inside a story people do not want to break. Now, the object does not just feel rare, it feels appropriate. And that changes everything. Because once people begin to believe that a diamond is the natural expression of serious love, alternatives become weaker. The market stops behaving like an open menu and starts behaving like a ritual. The buyer is no longer freely comparing equal options. The buyer is moving toward one symbol that has been given emotional priority. That is where the system gets stronger. And this is where De Beers becomes more than a diamond company. Because once scarcity is tied to romance, waiting, paying, and stretching all begin to feel more acceptable. The pressure remains, but now it feels justified by the moment. The expense remains, but now it feels connected to commitment. The product remains luxury, but the luxury starts to feel morally elevated. That is a very powerful position, because luxury works best when it can protect desire from substitution. If the buyer sees many alternatives as emotionally equal, scarcity loses force. But if one symbol is made to feel culturally superior, scarcity becomes much harder to resist. Now, limited access does not just increase tension, it protects the ritual itself. That is why this strategy matters so much. De Beers was not just helping sell a premium object, it was helping shape what the object meant in public, in relationships, and in memory. It helped turn the diamond into something bigger than a purchase, something that could stand in for devotion, permanence, and visible seriousness. Once that happens, the product becomes harder to question. Not because people stop thinking, but because the emotional cost of questioning it gets higher. That is the hidden mechanism. In luxury, the strongest products are not always the ones that are merely rare. They are the ones that make rarity feel meaningful. They make the restriction feel proper. They make the price feel fitting. They make the object feel like the natural container for an important emotion. That is exactly why diamonds became so durable as a symbol. People were not just buying brilliant size or shine. They were buying legitimacy. They were buying ritual. They were buying a story that told them this is what commitment is supposed to look like. And that is why the strategy worked. De Beers helped create a world where scarcity did not feel cold or commercial. It felt intimate. It felt romantic. It felt permanent. That is a much stronger form of luxury power. Because once romance strengthens scarcity, and scarcity strengthens romance, the product stops feeling like one option among many. It starts feeling like the one that matters. That is the real lesson. De Beers did not just help sell diamonds, it helped make scarcity feel like love.